Good afternoon, and welcome back to the virtual VETS'20 webinar series. Today is part 5 of our 15-part webinar series hosted by the National Veterans Small Business Coalition. I'm Earl Morgan, NVSBC Program Director, and to our new attendees, thank you for joining us today. Thank you again to our 8 sponsors who made this webinar series possible. Okay, the runtime for this webinar is 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's currently being recorded. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please submit them to scott.denniston@nvsbc.org. We will try to get to all of the questions on this webinar, and if we, by chance, we miss your question or do not have time to answer it, we will get the answer to you and post it on the virtual VETS'20 replay webpage. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, the Senior Advisor to the NVSBC, Mr. Scott Denniston.
Thanks, Earl. Good afternoon or good morning to everyone, depending on what part of the country you happen to be in. It's always a pleasure on Tuesday afternoons to get together with so many people to bring key people from the government and key speakers on topics of importance to the SDVOSB community. And so, Earl, thank you for all the technical assistance that you provide. Excuse me, and thank you to our sponsors. Before I introduce our speaker, for those of you who have been on before, those of you that are members of the NVSBC, I'm sure you saw the announcement last week that we have a new executive director of the NBSBC, Scott Jensen. Scott is a former Marine helicopter pilot and has experience not only running his own small business, but also in the nonprofit world for veterans. So I'd like to introduce Scott Jensen, welcome him to the NVSBC team, and give him a few minutes to say hello to everybody. So with that, Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'd like to say good afternoon and good morning to everyone too on the call. You know, first and foremost, I won't take too much time. It's because we've got a great guest today, and looking forward to hearing everything that we have going on. But I would like to say, and I'd be remiss if we didn't all just take a minute to applaud the work that Scott Denniston has done, not only for 10 years with the NVSBC, but also the decades before that in his role in supporting veteran business owners and those in the federal workspace. And Scott, we really appreciate what you've done. I have very big shoes to fill. It's somewhat terrifying, frankly, but thankfully, as you've seen in the previous slide, Scott has graciously agreed to forego a little bit of his retirement and stick around as a senior advisor to the NVSBC for as long as we need him, is what he guaranteed me, which could be a while. But it'll be nice to have you there supporting us as we continue to go along, Scott. And I know that you're making this transition so easy for me that it really means a lot. So again, thank you on behalf of all of us, the members, all of those in the federal government who you've worked with, and so many veteran business owners that you have impacted and supported throughout these many years. I'm also excited that, you know, to start working with our board, with our members, and all of those who are volunteers out there to support and extend the needs of veteran business owners in the federal marketplace. And you know, I look forward to interacting with not only the folks who are on this call, but all of our members and all of those who support our members in the work that we do, whether that's in the private business arena or in the federal marketplace, in supporting our members and their advancement in the federal work that they do. So again, thanks. It's great to meet all these new faces, and I look forward to meeting more and more. And hopefully these restrictions in COVID will eventually lift, and we'll get to do this in person in 2020 at VETS'21. So with that, thank you again, Scott, for the opportunity. I'll turn it back over to you, and look forward to this session. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Scott. I appreciate the kind words. Before we started, our guest speaker, Kimberly Buehler, the Director of Small Business Programs from the Army, we were chatting. So I was looking at her resume, and you know, she's got to be good. She's a Jersey girl. That's the only thing I have to tell you. But no, seriously, Kim was appointed to the Senior Executive Service in August 2019. And it wasn't long after that she was appointed to Director of the Army Small Business Programs. And, you know, historically, of all the services, the Army has always been the greatest supporter of the Veteran and Service Disabled Vet Program from the very beginning of the program. When we started our VETS programs and our Champions of Veterans Enterprise Award, the Army is the only service at the headquarters level that has achieved the Champions Award. So a great legacy here. Kim's got a great staff, and she's been with the Army now for 20 years in various positions, all in the acquisition community, starting for those of us old timers at CCOM at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. So I'm going to let her give you a little bit of her background, and then get into the program about what's the Army like today and where the opportunities are for small businesses, particularly service disabled vets, any particular challenges the Army has that we might be able to help with. So Kim, with that, first off, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a privilege and a pleasure for us to have you. And with that, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. I truly appreciate that introduction. I want to wish you the best of luck in your new retirement endeavors. It's good to know that you're still going to be helping to support the organization for as long as they need your assistance. And I'd like to also welcome Scott Jensen into his new role. So it's just like we were saying, Tracy Pinson was known and loved to many in terms of the Army Small Business Program, and the program was likely not to be where it is today if not for her efforts. I think that you should be extraordinarily proud of what you've achieved with this organization. And Scott does have big shoes to fill, but I think he's up to the task.
Yeah, good.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be speaking here today at the National Veterans Small Business Coalition VETS'20 virtual conference. This is a brave new world for a lot of us, doing this in a virtual mode. So I'm sorry that I can't see you and shake your hands, but times dictate that we go to a different platform, and hopefully that we're still able to effectively communicate some of our key messages and points to help you be successful in supporting government contracting. So as Scott said, I have over 20 years experience working for the Army, and my entire federal career has been with the Army, actually, and all of that's been in contracting. And in this capacity, I have held multiple types of positions. I did start out as an intern up with the Communications Electronics Command, so I progressed through the ranks there. I then had a great opportunity to come work in the Contracting Career Program Office down in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and I worked there for several years, managing actually the intern program. And we sponsored a lot of training events and try to put more structure around the program to make it a meaningful experience for everyone, so that when they graduated through the ranks, they had a good foundation in the contracting fundamentals. It was a great assignment. From there, I went to support the Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for procurement. So I moved over to headquarters staff. And that's always been a great assignment for me. I did 2 tours of duty working for that organization, and I counted them up, and I think over the years it was at least 8 different deputy assistant secretaries. So that was always fun and interesting, trying to adapt to the different personalities, the different agendas, and trying to make sure that we provided that continuity of civilian leadership as administrations changed in and out. I held multiple types of assignments there as well. Most recently, I was the Director for Procurement Policy, a position that I held for 7 years. So it was a great job, and I truly enjoyed it. I am probably a policy wonk at heart, which a lot of people shudder from, but it's definitely something that I embrace. I was very excited to have the opportunity to join the SES ranks, and particularly as a member and the leader for the Office of Small Business Programs. You know, having worked in procurement, I thought I knew a lot about small business, and I did, but I had an awful lot to learn as well. Luckily, I have a great team of professionals that support me in the Army's Office of Small Business Programs, and I've learned a lot from them. I've learned a lot from the cadre of small business professionals across the enterprise over the past year. And I've also learned a lot from industry partners like you. And I truly value those insights that I gain from you, because that's what we can take with us when we talk with the policymakers to try to make your opportunities more robust. And I did want to point out that today is technically my 1-year anniversary of being the Army's Director for Small Business Programs. So thank you very much for allowing me to share my day with you. So during our time together today, I will be talking about the Army Small Business Programs. I'll be highlighting some specific accomplishments that make the Army's program the standard bearer in the Department of Defense. I'm going to discuss some challenges as well as some opportunities, and I'll provide you with some upcoming events that I hope will be of interest to you. Earl, if you could go to the next slide. Okay, so this slide shows the mission and vision statements for the Army's Office of Small Business Programs. I recently signed a new strategic plan and an implementation roadmap, which kind of lays out our mission and vision in greater detail than what I could encapsulate on this slide. I would encourage you to go to our website, osbp.army.mil, and read these documents, as they should give you a good foundation in where our organization is headed. It was very important to me, as we said about refreshing the strategic plan, to make sure that our mission is deeply rooted in our statutory and regulatory responsibilities, is linked to the National Defense Strategy, the Army Strategy, and the Department of Defense Small Business Strategic Plan, which was published in 2019. Fundamentally, one of the most important things that we do, other than advocate for small business in general to any audience that will listen to us, is serving as advisors to the Secretary of the Army and all of the Army senior leaders on small business matters. We, of course, want to work on initiatives that are going to help expand the defense industrial base and leverage the use of small businesses and minority serving institutions in support of our Army strategic goals. And our vision is to be the premier advocacy organization committed to maximizing small business utilization in support of the Army. Next slide. So as I said, our Army Small Business Program is directly aligned to the priorities that support our soldiers and our nation. The Army's priorities have remained constant over the past few years. Their readiness, modernization, reform, strengthening alliances and partnerships, and people. And these are really the foundation of everything that we're doing in the Army. The Small Business Strategic Plan and the Implementation Roadmap addresses each of these areas and identifies how the folks in my office, as well as those small business professionals out in the field, will support each of these priorities. So again, I encourage you to read those documents. Next slide. Okay, now's the part I like the best because I get to start bragging about the program. So we are extraordinarily proud of our small business achievements. In fiscal year 2019, the Army awarded over $22 billion in prime contract awards to small businesses, and that was a little over 29%. This continued our 6-year trend of meeting or exceeding the Army's goal for prime contracting achievements that was established by the Department of Defense. We also continued our trend of exceeding the DoD goals for small business in each of the socioeconomic categories. We're especially proud to be amongst the only agency to exceed goals in HUBZone and women-owned small businesses, as well as service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So, you know, our folks take great pride in what they are able to do, in the relationships that they have built with industry, and in exceeding the goals that are set out for us. As you can see, our small business achievements for this year, for fiscal year 20, are on trend with our accomplishments in 2019. I am watching very closely our COVID-19 spend and its impact. I can tell you that it looks like COVID-19 has depressed our small business achievements around 1% so far to date. Our COVID-19 small business spend is averaging around 21%. Goes up and down a little bit each week, but we're averaging around 21%. So I am monitoring that pretty closely. However, when I look at the trend lines, we did end third quarter slightly ahead of where we were same time end of third quarter in fiscal year 2019. Next slide. So as you can see, this is our chart that shows our total obligations by state. And the darker coding indicates the heavier areas of spend. And you will notice, though, that we do have spend in every state across the United States. Next slide. Okay, and this slide shows our top 5 NAICS codes. And this is fiscal year 2020 to date. Please note that the Army's overall NAICS codes are all in the column all the way over on the right. And then we have it displayed by our major buying commands. And you can see that small businesses are providing a significant amount of support in several areas, including research, engineering services, construction, and facility services. And so these are some of our some of our areas that are cross command in terms of our spend. Next slide. Okay. So the importance of small business as a driver of our national economy has been dramatically on display over the past few months. The Payroll Protection Program and other extraordinary small business relief efforts have been lifelines to many during this global pandemic. We know that many of our defense industrial-based small businesses have been struggling, and the Department of Defense has enacted a series of measures to provide relief. Yet many challenges involving COVID-19 still persist. And we are worried particularly about cash flow of small businesses. We're worried about long-term sustainability. We're worried about the financial impact of canceled contracts. And we are worried about whether or not small business subcontractors are getting support from their primes. We believe that in many cases this is occurring, but the primes are also being impacted. So again, it's something that we are monitoring in the Army. The Department of Defense is definitely monitoring. There are weekly industry association calls sponsored by the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment. And all of the Department of Defense small business directors are on that call and included. So we hear directly from the industry associations that support you, both as whether you're a large business or a small business, and across all socioeconomic categories. So please know that you do have advocates, not only internal to the government, but these external associations. There are also many other challenges that you're dealing with right now. I'm sure most of you, if not all, have heard of the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC for short. I have provided you on this slide with a web link to Project Spectrum. This is something that's being sponsored by the Department of Defense. I really encourage you to go to this web link if you are struggling with CMMC. Project Spectrum, this web portal has access to tools and other information that can help you. Also, your local Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC, has resources, again, to help you. And this includes, hands-on assistance as well as providing training. So it's very important for you to be able to come into compliance with these cybersecurity requirements. There will be a cost. The government is, aware of this and is trying to mitigate that and put other measures in place, including making it a reimbursable cost. But you really need to be informed and to utilize as many free resources that are out there as possible. There are also for-pay companies that will help you, but the government has tried to minimize the need for you to have to go pay anybody to come into compliance. So I think my bottom line on CMMC is that there are resources out there to help you, but there will likely not be any relief from these requirements. We do need to hear from you if you believe that there are contracts that are being put out on the street, solicitations, requests for proposals that have excessive cybersecurity requirements put on them. One thing that we're concerned about is that contracting officers or requirements owners could default to higher levels of CMMC than might necessarily be required. And we will only know that if we hear from you. So, while we can't adjudicate every contract action that's out there, we certainly are interested in feedback. And I would encourage you to make sure that when draft requests for proposals or requests for sources come out, a source is sought, anything like that to that extent, please respond to them. I know that it's difficult. I know that it takes, labor hours that, you probably don't have, or you may not have a lot of employees to spend time looking around in beta.sam. But it is important to respond to those when they're available and when they're open, because the contracting officers have to adjudicate everything that comes into them. So if you submit comments, they have to be responsive. And the more small businesses that provide comments, the better it is. If only one small business responds, then the default position might be, well, it was only one company's concern, when it might be every small business's concern. So there are opportunities available. Like I said, I know that they do take time, but please know that they don't fall into a black hole. The contracting professionals have to be responsive to them. So be a disruptor, right? Make it difficult for contracting officers or for requiring activities to tell you no. So another challenge that hopefully you're following is complying with the statutory requirements of Section 889 of the FY19 National Defense Authorization Act. Now, I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on this new federal requirement, but I know that it is going to have a very big impact on both small and large business very shortly. So Section 889 will actually prohibit contracting officers from making awards to any entity, so any business, that uses any equipment, system, or service that uses what they're calling covered telecommunication equipment or services as a substantial or essential component of any system, or as a critical technology as part of any system. So right now, the covered telecommunications equipment and services is that from 5 different Chinese companies. It is possible that that list could expand in the future. So that's why we have the, the usage of the word, covered equipment. So again, as a policy wonk, I know we don't make things very easy for you to decode these things, but hope there are, again, free web-based services out there that can, help you do that. And I will be identifying some training later on that might also help you to better understand what this rule requires. So this interim FAR rule will go into effect on August 13th, so coming up really quickly. There's information available on the GSA website and at the Defense Pricing and Contracting website, DPC. We have been pushing information, my office has been pushing out information on this new rule through our social media platforms. So the bottom line for you is that regardless of the company size, large or small or other than small, right? These are technical terms. You will have to self-certify in accordance with the statute prior to being eligible for award of any contract, task, or delivery order, and that's against existing IDIQ vehicles, the BPAs or BOAs. So it's very all-encompassing. And again, it's a new award for new contracts or orders against existing ones. So if you're not tracking this change, you really need to. I realize that most of you are also concerned about the impact of category management. And I've provided you here with a chart that shows the trend on the number of unique small business vendors by year in the Army, right, with Army contracts over a period of time. So in fiscal year 2019, the Army achieved $1 billion in savings attributable to category management efforts. It is part of our strategy moving forward to fund the Army's readiness, modernization, and reform priorities. The Army published its category management policy in February of 2020. There is still much opportunity both at the prime and subcontract level for small businesses within the category management framework. Our challenge is with understanding the data, exploiting those areas where small businesses compete well and make sure that we're maximizing those, and changing the mindsets of contracting professionals from sheer compliance with regulation to making smart business decisions. However, we must also be mindful of this decline in the number of unique vendors within our defense industrial base, and for us, particularly with those doing business with the Army. You see there's the steady downward trend in the number of unique small business vendors since 2007. So in 2007, there were over 36,000 unique vendors in our database at the prime contract level. By 2019, that number declined to a little over 17,000. And this is all despite the fact that the Army has continued to meet or exceed all of our small business goals. So the money's still getting out there, but it's going to a fewer number of vendors. There's likely many contributing factors to this. I don't think it's fair to blame it all on category management. Strategic sourcing, which was a precursor, has been kicking around since about the time when we start seeing the data, the downward trend. So it is likely a big contributor, but it's not the only one. Our acquisition system has become increasingly complex, and the burdens of industry only continue to grow. So there are a lot of vendors that have just decided that they no longer want to do business with the federal government, let alone the Department of Defense. So, we are carefully looking at this. I can tell you this is being looked at the federal level as well, because this trend it's not an Army-only trend. It is a trend that is consistent across the federal government. And there have been some more recent looks and publications put out about harmonizing small business with category management. And I would expect that those would continue to occur. So despite all of these challenges, I don't want to sound like it's doom and gloom. We have a lot of really good things going on as well. So a lot of good opportunities. This is especially true in the area of research and development, and more recently, even in the medical fields. So the Army is definitely seeking to do business with small, innovative companies, as well as non-traditional contractors to help us solve our most complex problems. The Army Acquisition Executive sponsors something called the X-Tech Search. So this is a Shark Tank-like competition that goes through phases until and ultimately a winner is announced. So contractors who are selected to participate receive contracts or agreements that are fund targeted development in particular research areas. It's a great opportunity for the Army to reach innovative small businesses with much lower barriers to entry. The development gets funded, throughout the process until you get to the, ultimate winner. So it really helps us to draw in a new target audience of small businesses so that they can see the opportunities that exist within the federal space. I'd also like to highlight the COVID-19 pandemic in a positive manner. Small businesses have been a critical enabler to our federal and national response. They have provided critical care, support, facilities, as well as innovative solutions and technologies. Everything from vaccine development, therapeutics, needles, syringes, it runs the whole gamut of things that you hear about in the news every night that our small businesses are helping to produce. So, and I've provided you with 4 different examples of small businesses who received awards during this time directly in response to and support of COVID-19, just to highlight some of the good work that's being done. There are literally thousands of examples. These are just a few. The Army as well as the federal government is really focused hard on trying to expand our defense industrial base, and small businesses are going to be a contributor to that, particularly in filling our gaps, right, our capability gaps that we have, especially in trying to minimize our dependence upon adversarial nations for critical medical supplies. So this is definitely a growth area for small business, and one that we hope to see expanding in the near future. Next slide. Okay, so the Army's Office of Small Business Programs recognizes that despite our continued success in meeting our prime contracting goals for small business, there's really a lot we can do to modernize and reform our program. The recently issued strategic plan and implementation roadmap, of course, discusses these areas and really focuses them in on certain areas that are going to be critical to our success moving forward. So some that we're really highlighting include talent management. So, taking care of our small business professional workforce, making sure that they have the right skills needed in order to advance their careers and achieve higher levels of leadership, as well as making sure that they stay fresh in their skill sets, their acquisition skills, to make them valued members of the acquisition team. Policy, of course, is a big focus area. We do not have at this time a governing document within the Army for small business. We utilize the Army's Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, the AFARS, as a mechanism to provide guidance to contracting professionals. But we really need to have an all-encompassing document that provides guidance and affirmative policy for all levels of the Army, including our military commanders who are responsible for executing the program. So that is going to be a strong area of focus over the next couple of years. It's a big document. It takes a long time to staff and get coordination from all of our friends and stakeholders, but it'll be a labor of love that probably only I can actually appreciate. Data collection and reporting. It's very important that we are able to see ourselves not only in terms of achieving goals, but putting money into the economy, growing jobs, identifying those areas where we could have greater small business participation. Thinking about our veteran-owned small businesses, you bring so much to the table in terms of experience that, where can we best utilize that? And how can we leverage that to really expand those opportunities that are available to you. I mean, you really do bring a unique set of skills and information, I think particularly in a lot of the services areas, research and development, to really help the Army. You already talk our language, so it makes you that much more appealing as a partner for the Army. We're also going to be looking at compliance and oversight. So again, it'd be very easy to say, well, we're making our goals, so everything must be good within the program. But we know that there's always room for opportunity to do things better. And we know that there's some areas we'd like to take a harder look at. And we want to make sure that we have that type of insight so that we know where we need to do training. Where can our contracting officers benefit from, whether it's training and maybe it's a new regulation that's been issued, or perhaps it's how to write better source selection criteria to get better better proposals from small businesses, or better subcontracting plans from our primes. So we have to be able to have that data. We have to know where our weaknesses are so that we can go about improving them. So, that's absolutely going to be another area of emphasis over the next couple of years. So luckily, I am assisted by a team of 6 great professionals in my office who support our primary mission areas. We've done some workload shuffling around recently. We're still in process of getting that finalized, but making sure that our folks are aligned to these critical mission areas so that we can really support our customers. And our customers are you. Our customers are the Army, whether it be requiring activities, contracting activities, our small business professionals, other federal government stakeholders. We really are a bit of a hub, and we need to make sure that we're positioned to provide that support to everyone, to all of our stakeholders. So we also have a great team of small business professionals aligned with our buying commands. And these are the folks that are going to be your best avenue to what are the specific contracting opportunities that are coming up for you to compete on, or to get linked in with. So excuse me, I'm on my iPad and I got a call, so I'm a little off here. So anyway, these are the folks that you really need to be connecting with because they're your direct conduit into the contracting offices. So can you go to the next slide? Okay, so these are the 5 Army commands that currently have small business offices aligned to them. So at each command, there's an associate director of small business programs who has oversight for that command small business program. The associate directors lead their own cadre of small business professionals, and they're really geographically dispersed across the globe. So the contact information for each of these commands is on the slide, and I'll just briefly go through them so you can understand who buys what. Of course, our information for the office is listed at the top of the page, as well as our Twitter account. And we have been making a definite effort to be better at our social media engagements. Our Twitter account is the same. We did change over our LinkedIn account. I did not have that, so it's not on the slide. But if you were following our LinkedIn account, that's changed. There's a new corporate account, so you should have received a notice to follow the new one. But I did want to, make you aware of that change. So the Army Materiel Command is our largest command, both in terms of the Army itself, as well as for our small business contributions and achievements. So they, of course, buy our combat systems, information systems, intelligence and security systems. What's not listed here in terms of the Army Materiel Command is installation support. So the Army Materiel Command has a subordinate command called the Mission and Installation Contracting Command, and they are really there are rock stars, when it comes to small business achievements. And they provide, extraordinary support to the commanders at the installation level in making sure that their small businesses are, there to support their needs. So, and again, you've got the name of the Small Business Associate Director, as well as the general website to go to for information like acquisition forecast, as well as additional points of contact throughout the AMC command. Corps of Engineers, of course, is probably next in size in terms of our small business contributions. They buy, of course, military and civil works construction projects, as well as environmental projects. They have a new associate director, Miss Elizabeth Mudd, who came to us from one of the defense agencies. So she's newly on board and getting up to speed. I think she's going to do great things for the command. Next is the Army Medical Command, which is headquartered in Fort Sam Houston in Texas. They, of course, buy medical supplies and healthcare equipment, professional services, and they actually have two main contracting arms. One is really focused on patient care, and one is focused on medical research. Next is the Army National Guard. I'm sorry, the National Guard Bureau. I misspoke there. National Guard Bureau. They buy a lot of what the regular Army buys, including base operation, support services, and construction. And they're a joint organization who reports directly to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but they use Army Contracting Authority when buying goods and services in support of the Army and the Air Guard. So lastly is the Army's Future Command. So the Futures Command is the only command on the list that doesn't actually have contracting authority. So they are a little bit different in that respect. They have requirements for artificial intelligence, combat systems, medical research. It's everything that we need within our modernization portfolio, moving forward. So it's our newest command, and they're leading the transformation of Army modernization so that our warfighters have the latest and greatest concepts, capabilities, organizational structures that they need to dominate in any future battlefield. So they are seeking industry and technology disruptors of any size business, really, as well as traditional and non-traditional businesses. They're particularly interested in novel solutions to help meet our capability gaps in our 31+3 signature systems. I really encourage you to visit the Army Futures Command website. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of great information up there. And at a minimum, it's going to give you a good insight as to the Army's modernization efforts. And as we like to say, modernization is future Army readiness. So they really are all linked together. So you can contact any one of these command associate directors for, again, the acquisition forecast or any other specific contracting opportunities, in addition to your regular search of beta.sam. And as we're in fourth quarter now, you know how important that is. Next slide. If you want to reach someone in my office, the easiest way is to submit a request on our website, osbp.army.mil. This is a screen capture, and wanted to highlight that if you go to our website, if you go to the Contact Us tab at the top of the page, and if you select Speaker/Outreach Request, you will be able to fill out a form that will go to a central mailbox, and somebody will get back with you. Next slide. This is a screen capture of the form itself, and you'll see that there are some required sets of information that we need to know. What are you looking for? Do you want us to speak at an event? Do you want us to support some type of outreach, maybe matchmaking? Do you want to do a capability brief? Are you looking for information in a particular socioeconomic category? How can we connect you to individuals across our enterprise that are going to be able to assist you? Okay, next slide. Okay, so getting towards the end of my briefing here, I did want to show you some important upcoming events Most of these, either myself or someone from my office will be participating in. So later this week, so Wednesday, Thursday, as well as Wednesday, Thursday of next week, there's the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce GovConNet Procurement Conference. This is normally a one-day in-person event, but much like today's event, it is going to a virtual platform. I will be speaking on a panel with my fellow DoD directors on this coming Thursday. So I believe that's August the 6th. And I think our session starts at like 8:50 in the morning or something like that. So if you're interested in hearing, a panel presentation from the DoD small business directors, I would encourage you to sign up for that event. On August 12th, GSA is going to be doing a webinar on Section 889. It will be live, but also recorded so that you can go to it at your convenience. Again, I think it's a very important, interim rule that you need to be familiar with. It could be very complicated. You do have self-certification requirements. I think if you can participate in that webinar or some other type of training, that would be beneficial. On August the 31st to September the 2nd is Navy's premier small business procurement event, the Gold Coast, also virtual. You'll note all of these are virtual, of course. And there will also be a DoD directors panel at that event. So if you're not able to make the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, or if you are otherwise participating in the Navy event, that would be another opportunity for you. September 15th is the National Defense Industry Association is having their fall triad event. That's an industry association sponsored event. We have a lot of large business prime contractors that participate in that. It is virtual. It is, I believe, open only to members. But if you're interested in that, you certainly can check that out. And then the Army's premier event, which is going to be October 13th through the 16th, is the AUSA event. And we always do a small business seminar in conjunction with AUSA. And, we are working to figure that out, what that looks like, what our content looks like, and hopefully we'll still be able to do matchmaking. That is always a big part of what we do at AUSA. So we're working with that team now. James Lloyd, who I think probably many of you know, James has been supporting the service disabled veteran-owned small businesses as well as HubZone portfolios for quite some time. And he is certainly a fixture of within my office. So, James is also our AUSA representative. So, we're really looking to him to lead us into the future with this virtual AUSA event. So please know that we're working hard. And as soon as any information is available on that, we will certainly share it with you. Okay, next slide. Okay, well, in closing, I just want to again thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Each of you participating in VETS'20 is really a strategic partner of the Army. We might be motivated by different things, right? But we're all trying to achieve a common outcome. We really want to give our warfighters what they need for success, both today and in the future. So whatever the supply or service in question, we're really bound by this shared responsibility to serve our nation and its people. So thank you for all that you are doing. I want you to stay safe. I want you to stay healthy, and I want you to be Army strong. Thank you.
Kim, thank you. Great presentation. And believe me, as veterans, there's nobody that we support more than the warfighter. So believe me, we get the mission part of this, probably more so than anyone else. Just for our viewers, Kim talked about the CMMC requirements that are coming up, and that is one of our upcoming webinars, believe it or not. And I want to say it's either next week or the week after. So that'll be one that you're not going to want to miss.
It's next week.
Next week. Thanks, Earl, because they are really, really interesting topics that people need to know about. Kim, from what you know now, what is the not that we're not into it, but the fourth quarter spending going to be like for the Army? I know a lot of agencies that we work with say that there's going to be a real waterfall because things got slowed down during the mid part of the year with COVID. Is that the Army's experience as well?
So I don't think spending slowed down because of COVID. I mean, all of our folks have been, up and running. There's been no delay in getting contracts awarded. There have been some delays, I think, in terms of performance because of, challenges with facilities remaining open and, buying enough non-medical grade PPE to keep facilities open. We are definitely seeing more money than we did last year, specifically related to, COVID-19. And, I believe that there's additional money that we are hoping to see come out of a supplement for, should one be negotiated and signed out by the president. So, I don't believe that we've seen anything slow down. When I look at where we were, like I said, at the end of third quarter compared to the end of fourth quarter, we were slightly ahead of where we were. Our trend line is virtually identical every year.
Yeah.
So I really think we're on track. I think our spending will be above where we were last year.
Okay, good. Is the Army still having issues with finding PPE?
No, we've done a lot of purchasing. Of course, the supply chain has been a challenge. I think a lot of those have been worked through. For the folks on the line as well, I did want to highlight something else. The Defense Logistics Agency, DLA, has stood up a corridor on Fed Mall, which normally Fed Mall would just be where contracting professionals go to buy, make purchases. DOD, because of everything that they were hearing about the inability, particularly of small businesses, to find things like hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, they worked with DLA to stand up this new corridor on Fed Mall where small businesses can actually go in and sell non-medical grade PPE as well as buy non-medical grade PPE. So from what I'm hearing from our acquisition partners, we are actively buying the PPE that we need to support the Army. We're good on tests, our testing capacity. So I think we're in a much better place than we were earlier in the year. Resiliency, I think, is the word of the day. But I did want to take a minute to just highlight that if small businesses out there are still experiencing that, there is some capability out there to help them as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Not sure if you're familiar with our electronic ordering platform called GoVets that has 150 all VA verified service disabled vets that are supply about 3 million products. And we just stood up a PPE section of that where we have gowns, we have gloves,
Right.
we have swabs, and that. And so I'll reach out to you after this because I'd like to get that information to the folks at MedCom. Is another alternative, and as well for small businesses that need PPE. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's an issue for anybody on the call. Get back to me and I'll get you the link for that. The big concern that we all face, particularly in the veteran community, because most of us that started in the veteran small business movement, we're all Vietnam era veterans, and of course we're all getting to the point where it's time to go fishing, so to speak. And, as we watch the declines that you talked about, sorry, I'm having battery problems with my computer, on the number of discrete businesses doing business with the government. it's a real concern because it doesn't seem that the government is a good market anymore for new startup businesses. Any advice you might have to new startup businesses trying to break into the federal space, given the challenges that we all face?
I agree. I mean, it definitely is a challenge. You know, the ability to get on some of these large contract vehicles, you know, whether it be GSA or, you know, NAVSUP or, you know, any of those multiple award IDIQs that literally have thousands of vendors on them, is difficult, right? It's expensive, it's time consuming, and then you have to wonder, are you actually going to get awards after you've gone through all that business development to even get on those? So, you know, of course, that's what we're all telling people, right, is to make the investment so that you at least have the opportunity as the government is trying to manage its spend. But, you know, I think we all recognize that there's some issues with that too. When we get down to the agency level multiple award IDIQs, they just have too few vendors on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great, and we definitely want to have, you know, small business set-asides, you know, in those competitive pools. But if there's only 10 small business vendors, you know, again, that's not really providing much opportunity. And a lot of times those awards go to vendors that already have a presence in our marketplace. So we're not really expanding our reach and you know, our defense industrial base. I think the real opportunity right now is really in these capability gaps. So definitely in anything involving medical right now is hot and trending. Anything involving research and development, innovative solutions to you know, to our capabilities, you know, they want to hear from you, right? And I think this is where if we have you know, veterans out there that have, you know, if you've worked with some of these systems, these platforms, right, and if you you know, have a novel approach or you know, a capability, that's where I think the inroads are right now into, you know, trying to get into the industrial base. OTAs, you know, we're seeing our number of OTA awards double year after year. There's some consortiums out there. I'm certainly not going to advocate for somebody to join a consortium, but you know, they are. I'm also not going to tell you not to do that, right? I'm just going to tell you that they are out there and available, and you know, that might be an avenue in as well, lower barriers to entry. And then if you're able to prove technology, you know, you've hopefully been able to build up some industry and infrastructure during that time. So I think that's an opportunity. The mentor protege program, I think, is an opportunity. Again, not high numbers that we're going to see coming out of that program. You know, there's a limited number of opportunities every year. But certainly that's a good opportunity as well. I think where it's really challenging is in some of these service areas, you know, because it's hard to differentiate. And I think it's all about being able to differentiate. And I do think that veteran-owned businesses are in a much better position than some of the other socioeconomic categories to do that. So, I mean, it's hard, but if you're, you know, like a research and development area, you know, major weapon systems platforms, medical, those are really where the money's at right now.
Good, thank you for that. Just for your information, we've done a session on SBIR and STTR with Lockheed Martin, and we also have had a number of webinars with Jet Propulsion Labs at NASA.
Yeah,
they have some of the same issues that the services do, and
yeah,
we agree with you. You know, veterans are probably in a great spot. The challenge is we just got to educate them as to what those opportunities are. And so, you know, probably don't be surprised if Scott Jensen or Earl or myself don't reach out to you and say, let's do a one just very specific on that R&D world for people to agree with you. I think that's really important.
I agree. And, you know, it's hard for us too, right, to we know what we want, right? We know the technology areas where we have the gap, right? We've got our 31+3 signature systems identified. What we don't necessarily have is a good way to find those small businesses that are going to be interested in talking to us
Right.
if they have capability that we're interested in. So the more that we can talk about that and get that information out there, I think will benefit all of us.
Yep, I agree with you. And if there's anything we can do to help, we'll be more than happy to do that too.
Great.
Good. Well, our hour is about up. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I think it was really good information. Great questions, great answers, and we'll look forward to continuing this relationship and dialogue.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for inviting me. I wish you the best of luck, Scott, and the best to new Scott coming in. And always happy to talk with you and to support you and to support our veterans, as well as our Army, because your veterans are our soldiers for life. So thank you.
You're right. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.